And welcome back. I'm Matt Pitta with the Davenport Companies, here with the Housing Assistance Corporation CEO, Elisa Magnotta, and we're so glad that you're here with us again this year for our annual Telethon of Hope as we raise money to try to help our neighbors stay housed here on the Cape and around our area, raising awareness about what's going on with the ongoing housing crisis on the Cape and how we, and really all of you, can help us out there. And it's so important that you help us by making sure you call in during the telethon and do whatever you can to help. On this segment, we're going to turn our attention towards some home building and CapeBuilt companies. Rob Brennan. Rob, first of all, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Matt.
And Lisa, great to have Rob here today. And you know, we talked about, before we came back from break, we said, how do we start this out? And I think you put it the right way. Let's just start with the big news, right?
Oh, it's so exciting. What are we here for?
Checks.
Exactly.
Checks.
Money. Raise money.
So Elisa, it's my pleasure to start this off by number one, just underscoring and restating how much we at the CapeBuilt Companies and personally enjoy working with you and HAC and your leadership in tackling some of the most challenging, challenges here on the Cape, and that is, the provision of housing that is affordable across an entire spectrum. You and I serve on a lot of committees and task force and councils together addressing that and economic development, and we want to first lend our support in the way that I know we're here, to gather it today, and that's with a check for $2,500 from the CapeBuilt Companies to HAC.
Thank you.
And I want to follow this up with a challenge, and I want to go out to the home building community, and we, the CapeBuilt Companies, will match the next $2,500 that come in from our Cape home builders. And so, folks including Matt Anderson, who's the past president of the Massachusetts Home Builders. Matt is based here on the Cape. I hope he sees this and will step up to the challenge. Mike Duffany, who is also part of the state home builder leadership, also here on the Cape, and Peter Kimball, who I've served with on the state board of directors, and all the other Cape Cod home builders. I hope you'll answer this challenge. CapeBuilt will match your donations, and we'll do everything we can to continue rallying support for all the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. It will go a long way. I don't know what our total is right now, but this will definitely help get us towards our goal this evening. And the home builders last year came out in spades. They raised almost $100,000 towards our mission and helping people stay housed last year. So I hope they'll continue that effort. We're really good collaborators and love working with you as well, Rob. It's not just the generosity of funds, but also the connection into other committees and other activities, and you help us be better at our work, and I appreciate that very much.
I think we've got a great team here.
We really do.
It's great things ahead, for the Cape, for ownership and for housing development, which we need more of, as you know, across entire spectrum of forms and ownership and rental at the entire spectrum of affordability, and working together. I know that we're gonna make great strides.
Well, that fits in with what we wanted to talk about here, right? Because we've talked about the need for housing, we've talked about the shortage of housing, and unfortunately there is no way around it but to build, right? And finding the right places to build that is appropriate for where we live on this beautiful peninsula, right? We have to be stewards of the environment and of the land. So we can't just build, right? But we got to be very, very careful in where we're building.
Right. You've worked, Rob, with CapeBuilt as developing a lot of projects so far on the Cape, and as we move forward, as Elisa says, we have to have building to create this workforce housing, but balancing the environment. So how have you folks at CapeBuilt worked towards that end? What are the strategies and the challenges in that end in terms of doing a development with keeping the environment in mind?
Well, I think, Matt, you really nailed it. It is that combination of housing and climate and housing. Those are the two most important challenges I think we're faced here on Cape Cod. We're surrounded by water, we're battered by storms, and we really need to take strides to address both, and that is going to become the challenge. That's one of the things that Elisa and I work together on, is how do you move climate policy, hand in hand forward with housing policy, moving housing policy hand in hand forward with climate policy. And it really, it starts, as Elisa said, in identifying where we can, develop more housing. And looking at activity centers, where there's already importantly infrastructure, which is also, we know here on the Cape, another important consideration. Where do we have sewer in place, public sewer in place that can take more capacity, but also looking at activity centers and developing, in close proximity to those activity centers. Projects like we're doing in downtown Hyannis. We did a historic renovation right on Main Street at 255 Main Street, as you may know. And we're working now on 60 units of workforce housing on Pleasant Street called Sea Captain's Row. And again, working with Elisa to identify other areas and opportunities for development in the Hyannis Activity Center as well as others throughout the Cape. And when we develop housing in activity centers, not only do you benefit from the existence of infrastructure, including and most importantly sewer, but also you give the residents the opportunity to have a walkable neighborhood, one where they can access not only what they need on a daily basis, that coffee, those groceries, but also recreation. And recreation when you can just go out your front door and take a walk and be at places, like the waterfront or Calmus Beach, or hopping on your bike, being on the rail trail. The elimination of the dependency on motor vehicles, not only does that have an economic benefit to the families who are living there, but it also reduces carbon emissions. And that is, it's an important step, again, in advancing both housing policy and climate policy hand in hand.
We've got just a short amount of time left. Quick answer if you could. These are all great initiatives and concepts. You have to have the towns on board for this as well, and it's something for years I've talked about, really trying to push the needle with towns to make the changes they need to alterations, smart zoning, things like that. What's your message to the towns on how they can be part of this as we move forward?
Yeah. Well, I think the towns this past year have had an important tool put in their hands with the Housing Choice Act, and that allows initiatives, both innovative zoning and approvals of projects, to not have to hit that 2/3 majority, but just to hit a simple majority. So I think one message is to take advantage of that important tool that's been now placed on the table to move forward innovative zoning and to move forward innovative projects that are going to create more housing in those activity centers.
So Rob is really good at being thoughtful about where he's building the housing so that it's walkable, so we're not dependent on cars, that it's energy efficient so that it keeps the utility bills down, but also doesn't have reduces the carbon footprint for the homeowner, and making sure that the wastewater impact is very limited for whatever building he is developing. And I think that's really where housing development and the environment are linked, or in those three areas. And he's really good at making sure that we dot those I's and cross those T's.
Rob, thanks so much for being with us this year on the
Thank you.
Telethon for Hope. Thank you so much for the check and the challenges that you put out there as well.
Yeah,
We hope you
really
have
good.
Best
Thank
of
you.
luck,
Thank
and
you. Thank you. Thank
home
you.
builders, step up to the plate.
we hope you're going to have
you.
a great holiday season.
You too, Matt. Thank
All right,
you.
great.